Hey guys, tonight we slip beneath the waves and wander the hush of the deep. Imagine the cool hush of ocean water wrapping around your arms like soft silk, the kind that flows slower than time and hums with possibility. The sun above has long since disappeared, replaced by a dusky green glow, as if someone turned down the sky's brightness to its lowest setting. Everything is quieter here, not silent, but muffled, like the world is listening more than speaking. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you've ever had a dream that left you floating, drifting, or falling slowly into some place unexpected, drop it in the comments. I always love reading those. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first step isn't a splash or a sudden plunge. It's just different. You blink, and where your feet touched carpet or tile a moment ago, they now sink slightly into something cool and swaying. You look down, it's kelp, but not the messy kind that washes up in knots. This is soft, long-bladed green gold and looping gently in the water like it's breathing. Beneath your feet, it weaves into spiral steps a staircase that curves down and down and down, beneath a shimmering ceiling of water that only barely lets in light. You glance up. There's no sky anymore, just ripple and gleam. And yet, you're not afraid, because the water doesn't press in. It holds you, like a parent gently cradling a dozy child, as if saying, "Yes, this is allowed. You may go." So you take the first step. The kelp step squishes just enough to feel real, but not so much that you lose your balance. It's strangely satisfying, like stepping into warm clay or the world's softest pudding. Each footfall makes a faint chime like a bubble popping at just the right frequency. And then the staircase responds. The lights begin to wake. They're not electric or fire-based. They bloom along the edges of the steps, like morning glories unfurling in pinks and violets, and a soft teal that hums with no sound. You realize the glow is coming from tiny barnacle-like buds tucked into the kelp, each one blinking open with a sleepy pulse the moment your foot hovers above it. This place knows you. It knows where you're going before you do. Your arms float beside you now, hair drifting up. There's no sensation of holding your breath or needing to swim. The ocean simply agrees with you. Your presence is not an intrusion, just a curious ripple. Somewhere in the far below, you see a flicker of movement. Just a suggestion. It could be a tail, a fin, a very lazy fish rolling over for 5 more minutes of sleep. Or maybe it's nothing at all, just a dream you haven't gotten close enough to remember yet. As you descend the staircase winds gently, No sharp turns, no jarring drops, just one long spiral of quiet curiosity. To your left, strange sea moss clings to the water itself. Yes, to the water, as if it's forgotten that things are supposed to need surfaces to grow. It sways toward you like slow-motion confetti, and some strands briefly attached to your sleeves as if greeting an old friend. And perhaps you are. Perhaps the ocean knew you once back when your dreams always involved dolphins and castles and riding waves the size of cities. A school of fish drifts past, shaped like punctuation commas, ellipses, maybe a parenthesis or two. One particularly round, sleepy fish gives you the side eye as if to say, "Late to the story, aren't we?" before wiggling off into the blue. You keep descending. The light above you fades slightly, but you don't mind. The water takes on deeper hues. Wine, mulberry, shadowy, aquamarine, and the staircase never feels fragile. It's scalp, sure, but it feels like it was braided by something patient and deliberate. Something with time. Lots of it. Maybe that crab you see down there. Yes, the one polishing a pearl with a toothbrush. Or the pair of translucent eels twined around a seashell, arguing in bubbles. The air, or rather the water, is scented now. Not salty. Something different. Fresh parchment. Rain on hot stone. And beneath it all, a hint of lavender, so gentle it might only exist in memory. You pass a tiny sign planted in the kelp. Deep thoughts this way. An arrow curls downward playfully. You smirk. Or you would if you weren't half liquid yourself, now your smile. Just a ripple across your own face. Still you keep going. The spiral narrows slightly, not in a claustrophobic way, but in a focused one. Like the ocean is whispering, "We're almost there." And then, just before the final step, you notice it. The edge, a drop-off into something glowing. A great open hollow in the ocean filled with light not from above, but from within. It pulses gently like a heart in no hurry. The staircase ends. No more steps. But a smooth stone archway stands before you, etched with barnacled runes, moss curls, and an inscription you can only read if you stop trying. So you do. And it says, "Those who wander without rushing always find what they're not looking for." You run your fingers along the edge of the arch. It hums in response. And when you step through, the water swells forward and welcomes you deeper. The moment you pass beneath the arch, the world doesn't shift. It breathes. One long, slow inhale, and then everything holds still just for a second. And in that pause, the darkness glows. They're everywhere. Jellyfish. Not the stingy kind. Not the ones you avoided at the beach as a kid. These drift slowly, deliberately, like they're on union-mandated dream duty. They glow from the inside out. Soft gold periwinkle. A buttery, pale green that flickers when they pass each other like shy compliments exchanged across a crowded room. They form a path. A winding one, of course. This is a dream, not a hallway. The jellyfish hover in loose lines and loops, gently guiding you deeper into the glow. Each one pulses softly, their tentacles trailing behind them, like silken ribbons caught in slow motion. None of them bump into you. It's like they know where you're going before you take the step. And you're not walking anymore. Not exactly. The water under your feet feels like velvet now, but with a memory of gravity. You sort of drift along the path, nudged forward, as if the current has a favorite bedtime story, and it's trying to hurry you to the best part. Some of the jellyfish wink at you. Yes, wink. Little blinks of light in their domed centers, as if saying, "You've come farther than most." You pass one the size of a teacup and another the size of a wagon wheel. They don't seem to care about scale. One group floats in a circle above you, tentacles interwoven like dancers mid-rehearsal. You pause beneath them. Something about their spiral shape draws your eye upward, and for a second, just one, you feel weightless. Not metaphorically, really weightless. Like your bones forgot they exist, and your thoughts suddenly have room to stretch all the way to the corners of your skull. Then you drift downward again gently, as if the water said, "Okay, enough floating." Onward, the deeper you go, the more bizarre and beautiful the lantern jellies become. One has what looks like tiny golden bells in its body that chime faintly as it moves. Another sports a crown of petals, actual flower petals, you think drifting where no flowers should be. And there are signs now, not wooden ones, no. These signs are made of fish. Yep, fish. Tiny, darting silverfish that align themselves into cursive words when you pass by. You tilt your head to read them as they swirl past. No wrong turns in dreams. Wonder lives in the in-between. Remember the thing you forgot. You chuckle softly at that last one, though you're not sure why. There's something a little impish about this place. Not threatening, just mischievous. Like a librarian who hides secret notes in books just to see who finds them. A jellyfish slows beside you, matching your pace. This one is translucent blue, with thin gold veins running through its bell. It looks like stained glass held together by moonlight. As it pulses next to you, you notice it's carrying something. Inside its body, barely visible, floats a key. An old one, brass, ornate. You reach out, but the jellyfish tilts just slightly and pulses away. Not yet, apparently. Not time for keys. You keep moving, and then the path opens. Not dramatically, no trumpet fanfare, no spotlight. Just an unspooling of space ahead. The jellyfish scatter wider, forming soft rows along a vast corridor that feels like the nave of an underwater cathedral. The water here is tinged with lavender, and the ceiling is so far above it shimmers like cloud glass. The floor, if it can be called that, is lined with soft, undulating moss. You step onto it and realize it's warm. Just a little. like it's been basking in your memory. Above you, the jellyfish begin to sing. Okay, not sing. There's no melody you can hum, but the water vibrates faintly now, and the jellyfish pulse in time with it. It's more of a feeling than a sound, like nostalgia with a heartbeat. You wonder what language this place speaks. You've said nothing since arriving, not out loud, not with your mouth, but the ocean seems to know everything you mean. To your left, a fish with glasses and an oversized quill is scribbling something into the sand. It notices you watching, pauses, then shuffles backward to reveal a small message. You're doing better than you think. You blink and thank it somehow. It nods, goes back to scribbling. Farther ahead, the jellyfish lanterns form an archway. Not a heavy one, not a gate, just a gentle curve like arms held out to welcome you. And in its center, hovering in the soft current, is a pearl, a big one, the size of a grapefruit. You pause. There's a humming around it, a tone that buzzes just behind your ears, pleasant like a good memory just out of reach. You reach out, and as your fingers brush the pearl's surface, it splits. Not violently. No cracking, no shatter. It just opens inside a bubble, a floating memory, your memory. You're sitting in a sunbeam, somewhere old. Maybe a classroom, maybe a kitchen. You're younger. You're holding a seashell and listening to it, pretending to hear the ocean. But now you realize it was never pretending. You were hearing it. You always were. The bubble floats free of the pearl, trailing behind like a balloon. And as it goes, one of the jellyfish absorbs it into its glow. You realize something: the jellyfish aren't just lighting the path. They're carrying stories, memories, bits of people who wandered through here before. You follow the curve of the arch, and the jellyfish tighten into formation again. They know you're ready for the next part. You float forward, slower, now gentler, and as the light ahead dims just slightly, you spotted a shipwreck nestled into the seafloor like a sleeping giant. Its masts have become coral towers. Its hull is split wide open, not shattered, but yawning, inviting. The jellyfish part making way. And you feel it again, that breathless hush before discovery. You step forward. The ocean exhales. You step inside the shipwreck and realize instantly this is not a ruin. It's a residence. Or maybe a library. Or possibly a tea house. The hull curves above you like a ribcage painted in moss and lichen, strung with strands of kelp that sway like curtains in a lazy breeze. Light seeps in from the holes in the ship's frame shafts of sea gold, dreamy and drifting. Tiny fish dart in and out of the beams like punctuation. You pause at the threshold, because seated there in the middle of what was once a captain's quarters is a crab. Not just any crab. This one wears a waistcoat, maroon, slightly faded with mismatched buttons, and a monocle that seems to stay on only because it's too polite to fall off. The crab is sipping tea from a cup the size of a bottle cap. He notices you immediately and raises one claw in greeting. Small wave, nothing extravagant. "Ah," he says in a voice that somehow sounds like salt and typewriter keys. You must be the wanderer. You nod, unsure how else to respond. Words still feel unnecessary, like dressing up for a dream. You can. But why? The crab gestures with his other claw to a cushion made of folded eelgrass beside him. You sit carefully, half expecting the floor to creak. But it doesn't. This place has long since stopped pretending to be a ship. Tea? He asks. You nod again, and he pours. The teapot is made from a conch shell with a spout delicately carved from driftwood. The liquid is impossible to describe. It looks like sunbeams and smells like the inside of a memory box. You sip. It tastes like a childhood afternoon, a little warm, a little bittersweet, and entirely yours. The crab opens a scroll. You hadn't noticed it before, tucked beneath his claw. He unrolls it slowly, carefully, like he's afraid it might dissolve into nostalgia if handled too roughly. It's a map, sort of. A map of places that might exist. A dream atlas. The paper is flecked with ink blots and little watercolor sketches. Some of the landmarks include Hill, where regret waits with a picnic basket. Forest of Lost Names, the room where you finally cried. The intersection of maybe and always. Teacup Island, home to an unusually charming storm. You lean closer, and the crab leans with you, his monocle fogging slightly with enthusiasm. These, he says, tapping a claw gently, are emotional geographies. Not to be confused with sentimental cartography, that's a whole other department. You nod solemnly, as if this makes perfect sense. Because it does. In this dream space, it's the most logical thing you've heard all day. He shows you another section of the map, a cluster of dotted lines connecting various blank spaces. What's here, you ask? And the crab clicks thoughtfully. Unspoken things. Hopes you almost gave up on. And detours. You trace one of the dotted lines with your finger, and for a moment, you feel something stir in your chest. Not painful, just old. Like a song you loved, but stopped playing because it reminded you of something too good to last. The crab gently rolls up the map and sets it aside. You're not lost, he says, as if you'd asked. You're just between what you finally whisper. He lifts one claw skyward, or at least in the direction sky would be if the ceiling weren't made of coral-studded wood. Between becoming and remembering. You stare at him, wondering whether to feel moved or mildly baffled. He continues sipping his tea. Suddenly, from somewhere near the stern, a soft chime sounds. The crab perks up. Ah, the next tide. He pulls out a small hourglass filled with what looks like moon dust. It hovers in his claw for a second, then floats toward you. It'll turn itself when you're ready to leave, he explains. You accept the hourglass. It's light and a little warm. It hums faintly like a lullaby sung underwater. Do you live here, you ask? The crab looks around fondly. Part-time. I split my weeks between here and the Tapestry Cliffs. You want to ask more, but already the space around you seems to be shifting. A current stirs at your feet. The scroll has vanished. The teacup is empty. The eelgrass cushion uncurls slightly, as if sighing you to your feet. The crab stands too well, sort of. He adjusts his waistcoat, smooths his monocle, and gives you a short bow. Keep going, he says gently. You're about to reach the part where it gets very strange. Stranger than this. He chuckles a soft click, click. Oh, yes, but also beautiful. The way old truths always are. He turns scuttles toward the back of the ship and fades behind a curtain of kelp. You turn too. A door has appeared. Round, made of sea glass and twine, as if woven together by long-forgotten hands. The hourglass in your palm vibrates once, then flips. The door swings open with a sound like someone exhaling their secrets into a bottle. And beyond it, you see a school of fish arranged in a spiral, each one glowing with a different memory. They part to let you pass, and you do. The water welcomes you again, brushing your shoulders like a friendly ghost. You swim forward, and ahead, just barely visible, is a staircase made of coral and moonlight curling upward like a question mark. The dream is deepening. You keep going. You emerge from the spiral of glowing fish into sudden stillness. No currents, no flickering schools, just space. The water here feels different, cooler, slower, thicker, like it's been aged in oak barrels and poured just for this moment. It hums slightly, not in sound, but sensation, like the deep ache of a cello note left hanging in the dark. And ahead of you, looming like the memory of something long extinct, is the ribcage of a whale. Massive, white with age, and streaked with barnacle moss. The bones arc upward and out, like cathedral rafters built by the sea herself. There's no carcass, no horror, just majesty, reverence. The kind of stillness you'd find in an old church no longer used for prayer, only for remembering. You drift toward it slowly, respectfully. This is not a place to rush. The seabed beneath you turns from fine sand to pale silt, soft as powdered snow. Your footsteps don't stir clouds. They vanish instantly, absorbed as if the ground itself doesn't want to disturb the silence. And then you hear it. Music, faint at first. So faint you wonder if it's only your breathing filtered through memory. But no, there it is again. A swell, a harmony, voices, dozens, maybe hundreds of them. Not loud, not sharp, just layered softly, overlapping like layers of dusk. Male, female, something in between, something beyond. Some sing in languages you don't know. Others hum wordlessly. But they all share the same tone, longing, wrapped in peace. You step under the first arch of whalebone. The moment you do, the water shimmers and sound blossoms. It's not louder, just present, real. It curls around you like warm fabric, woven from every lullaby that never got finished. The space inside the bones glows faintly blue, and from the curved ribs hang strands of kelp and pearl. Swaying in rhythm with the music, you float a little higher, not swimming, just rising, and you begin to see them. The choir. They are not ghosts, not exactly. More like echoes that chose to stay. Some are figures of light. Others resemble people, but softened, blurred, like someone drawn in charcoal, then brushed with fingertips. One figure, broad-shouldered with hair that floats like willow branches, turns as you pass and nods just once. Their lips do not move, but somehow you hear, "We sing the memories no one else kept." A second voice joins, the ones left behind when the waking came too fast. You pause and slowly, instinctively begin to hum. You don't know what you're singing, but your body does. It's the tune your feet tapped once on a balcony when no one was looking. The rhythm you hummed into your pillow after hearing that one song on the radio years ago. It's wordless, private, and somehow they know it. The choir shifts. They turn to you subtly without pressure, and some of them begin singing your melody, adding to it, supporting it, lifting it like it was fragile and beloved. You float further in until the rib cage arches above and behind you, fully enclosing you in its vast, porous womb of bone and sound. This is not just a place. This is a memory vault, a sacred archive for feelings too delicate for land. You pass beneath a strand of hanging shells and pause to watch them spin slowly in the water. Each one seems to hold a single word, just a fragment. Names, maybe, or hopes. You try to read one, but as soon as you focus, it vanishes into glint. You glance to your left and see a being that seems made entirely of bubbles, each one containing a face, mid-expression, a laugh, a sob, a look of disbelief. They float slowly around the figure, orbiting gently protected. It nods to you and drifts upward, vanishing into one of the upper arches. Another voice speaks not from a mouth, but from within your own breath. Every sound ever swallowed is remembered here. You find yourself moving toward the center. A stone dais rests there, spiraled with mother of pearl and ringed with sea glass. Upon it, a conch shell the size of a sleeping child. You know somehow that if you place your ear to it, you will hear your own voice. Every word you didn't say when you should have. Every apology. Every "I love you" whispered too late or too early. You hover above it for a long moment. Then you choose not to listen, and somehow that feels like healing. The choir swells around you, not louder, just closer, more real. One of them offers you a ribbon made of seaweed and silver thread. You take it, tie it around your wrist, without knowing why. The figure who first spoke turns back to you. "Go on," they say gently. "The ocean's not done dreaming you yet." You nod, no words needed, and drift out from the ribcage cathedral. As you leave, the song fades not into silence, but into memory, which is of course where it always meant to live. You look up. There's a soft glow above greenish and dancing like candlelight on waves. You kick gently toward it and rise. You break the surface of the music like a diver rising through fog. And what greets you next is not what you expect. Light, color, movement. It swirls in soft circles ahead of you, drawing your eye like a lullaby you haven't heard since childhood. But somehow, remember all the lyrics too. A gentle slope leads downward again, but this part of the seabed is paved. Yes, paved, with overlapping tiles of pale coral and polished shell. They shimmer beneath a ceiling of rippling light, and as you move forward, you realize they're forming spirals beneath your feet, like the whorls on a fingerprint or the inside of a seashell that once held a secret. At the center of it all, the carousel. Not mechanical, not loud. This one is slow, dignified, the way planets might waltz if no one was watching. A dome of amber glass rises over it, anchored in place by curling arms of kelp and bronze, holding the structure steady. But inside is the kind of magic you only glimpse in dreams, where everything smells like warm laundry and your old science textbooks. The creatures move in a perfect slow orbit. A seahorse the size of a pony, its fins tipped with glimmering mica. An octopus wearing what appears to be a small lopsided crown made of sea urchin spines. A lionfish with pages for fins. Yes, actual parchment fluttering gently with underwater script you can't quite read. And nestled in the middle of it all, holding everything together, a conductor, a sea turtle, enormous, peaceful, wearing a bow tie made from an eel's ribbon-thin skin and a monocle balanced quite precariously on his nose ridge. He lifts one fin in greeting. You wave back, because what else can you do? Welcome, he says, his voice the gentle gravel of sand dragged by tide. This is the carousel of wishes delayed. You blink, delayed, not denied. The turtle clarifies, beginning a slow lap around the platform. Just waiting for their moment. You float forward until your hand brushes the railing, an elegant loop of braided coral and brass. It's warm to the touch somehow, as if it remembers being part of something once alive. The carousel begins to spin a little faster, not dizzying, just inviting. One of the creatures glides closer to you. It's a manta ray, wide and elegant, with tiny houses embroidered into its back in glinting thread. Miniature porches, tiny swinging doors, gardens that bloom and fade in slow underwater rhythms. This one says, the turtle drifting beside you is the wish you made for belonging. You rest a hand on the manta's wing, and something inside you clicks. You don't climb aboard, not yet, but you understand now. These aren't rides. These are echoes, invitations. You're not meant to tame them, only listen. Another creature passes. A narwhal with a spiral tusk made of frost and candle wax. This one's for the wish you never said out loud, the turtle murmurs. You ask softly, what happens if I forget a wish? The turtle chuckles a rich sound that rumbles through the floor of the carousel like the ocean remembering an old joke. They don't forget you. They wait, patiently, until you circle back. The carousel's rhythm slows again, and you find yourself walking beside a long-legged crab carrying a lantern made of blown glass and sea foam. It winks at you. You wink back. There are no tickets here, no turnstiles, just time, gentle time. Each step you take, the carousel shifts. A new creature glides into view. A jellyfish, shaped like a chandelier, its long filaments decorated with what looks like birthday cards, written in dozens of different handwritings. As it floats by, you catch one. Someday, you'll paint again. It was your handwriting. You don't remember writing it, but it's yours. The turtle nods, seeing your face. Some wishes you outgrow, he says. Some grow into you. You walk alongside the carousel, following the spin, letting the creatures move past. Some you recognize. A koi with music notes drifting from its gills. A shrimp with a tiny brass telescope strapped to its back. A seal knitting a scarf that unravels as fast as it's made. Eventually you come to a halt. Before you, a carousel creature you've never seen before. It looks like a fox, but with gills and trailing seaweed for fur, and eyes that glint like secrets just about to be whispered. Its back is empty. No house, no lantern, no story written yet. You reach out. The fox presses its nose gently to your palm, and in that second, something flares, not loud, not painful, just vivid. You remember a night when you sat on your rooftop alone, watching the moon flicker between clouds and thinking, what if I could start over? The fox blinks, and you know this is that wish. It's still here. It never left. The turtle glides beside you again. Take your time, he says, but you already are. You step onto the carousel, resting beside the fox. You don't ride it. You stand with it, and it begins to move, not fast, not slow, just enough. You don't close your eyes. You don't need to. The carousel takes you inward, then brings you gently back. When you step off, the fox is gone. In its place, a small folded paper star on the floor. You pick it up. It hums faintly. You'll know when to unfold. It says, "The Turtle." You nod and continue forward. The carousel spins behind you. The creatures keep circling, and somewhere far above, a bell rings, calling you deeper. You follow the sound of the bell, deeper still. The carousel's soft music fading behind you like a memory. You know you'll visit again. The path narrows, winding through canyons of coral and sandstone shaped like drifting smoke. The water grows darker, not with fear, but with promise. A hush settles over everything, the kind of quiet that libraries wear like a favorite shawl. You round a corner, and there it is, the library, tucked into the seabed like a secret that never wanted to be hidden. The building is carved from fossilized shell, its exterior spiraled and pitted with age. Enormous sea fans grow from the structure's sides like wings, and long strands of kelp curtain the entrance, swaying gently as if whispering to one another in hushed tones. Above the arched doorway, a sign etched in shimmering ink across a panel of polished driftwood reads, "The ephemeral archives of everything you almost remembered. You pause, smile, then duck through the kelp curtain. The moment you step inside, the current stills. The temperature shifts cooler now, but comforting, like the space beneath a heavy blanket. The walls are lined with floor-to-ceiling shelves, all carved directly into coral and stone. But instead of books stacked neatly, they float. Dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of books, bioluminescent volumes, glowing in soft hues of lavender, sea glass, green, and warm pearl, drift lazily in the water, tethered to invisible threads. Some flutter open and closed like sleepy butterflies. Others glow brighter when you glance at them, as if recognizing you. You step forward and catch sight of the librarians, eels, elegant, ribbon-thin, gliding between shelves with practiced ease. Each wears a tiny pair of glasses perched on the bridge of their snouts, and a utility belt of tools, tiny letter openers, index cards, a spool of sea silk string. One pauses nearby, notices you, and tilts its head. It doesn't speak, but it gestures with its tail, curling it toward a particular alcove. You follow. The books in this section glow a little warmer. Some pulse softly as you pass. You reach out, brush your fingers against a floating volume the color of dusk. It flips open on its own. Inside, no words, just smells. The scent of cinnamon gum, salt air, a new pencil eraser. The inside of your grandmother's purse, familiar, but not in a way you can place. You inhale deeply and realize this book is yours, not written by you, written about you. A record of everything you almost remembered but didn't. The name of that girl from 4th grade with the cool shoelaces. The feeling of turning the last page of a book you never found again. The moment you laughed so hard at a movie that popcorn came out of your nose. You smile, and the book closes. An eel librarian glides past, deposits a pearl in a tiny cup, and disappears around a corner. You wander deeper into the archives. Here books whisper to one another in soft syllables that sound like rain on rooftops. You pass a display case labeled "Things You Thought You Lost, but Only Misplaced Emotionally." Inside a sticker from your old lunchbox. A seashell you picked up and promptly forgot about. A plastic ring you gave to someone at recess and never asked back for. You exhale and the case fogs up slightly. In another wing of the library, a reading nook awaits soft seaweed poofs, glowing jellyfish lanterns, and a waterlogged tea tray with cups that refill themselves with something that smells suspiciously like spiced pear and starlight. You sink into the nook, and for a while you read. The book in your hands is titled "A Few Nice Things They Said About You That You Never Heard." Each page is a moment. Someone once called your laugh contagious. Another remembered how you always held the door without being asked. Someone else wrote that you reminded them of sunlight on a lake. You blink, close the book gently, float it back into the current. One eel pauses at your side again, This time, it carries a scroll tied with a ribbon of woven mist. You accept it, unroll it. The parchment reveals a map not of geography, but of emotions. Each corner labeled with strange but familiar terms: bittersweet triumph, reluctant joy, comfort. You weren't ready for yet. In the center, a spiral pointing downward. The eel taps that spot with its tail, then swims upward and vanishes between the shelves. You fold the map, tuck it into your robe pocket. Yes, your robe has a pocket again, and it's always exactly the right size. As you rise, the books around you start to hum, not with words, but with feeling. A lullaby sung by memory itself. The kelp curtains at the far end of the library flutter. You take that as your cue. As you glide toward them, the books bow slightly in the current, like an audience at the end of a performance. You bow back because it feels right, and step through the curtains. The water warms again. Your path curves upward. Somewhere ahead, another light, another door, another piece of the dream. The path curves gently to the right, rising in a slow spiral like a thought you're trying to follow without rushing. The water lightens by degrees, still soft, still dreamlike, but with a pearly shimmer now like the sky before dawn remembers how to be blue. The map from the eel librarian, still tucked in your pocket, pulses faintly with warmth, as if pleased you haven't lost it yet. And then, ahead of you, the light shifts again, not brighter, but quieter. That's the only word that fits. You pass beneath a low coral archway, framed by strands of braided sea lace, and find yourself in a garden. No, a glass garden, sprawling round and lit from within by an unhurried glow. The entire chamber feels like it's been carved from the inside of a pearl. Petal-thin panels of translucent shell rise into curving walls, and everywhere, everywhere are anemones. Thousands of them, each one resting in its own bulb of glass or driftwood cradle, bobbing gently in the current, like sleepwalkers who never quite wake up. Some are curled in tight spirals like question marks, too shy to be asked. Others stretch their soft fronds in long, lazy arcs, waving at nothing in particular. And the colors. No paint box ever held shades like this. Pale honey rose, storm cloud, lavender, deep plum with glints of moonlight, and a kind of mint that feels like a memory of laughter you forgot to write down. They glow faintly, these sleepy sea creatures, casting soft ripples of color across the seafloor, like someone spilled dream ink on silk. You step forward carefully, mindful not to disturb anything. But the moment your feet touch the sandy path, something changes. The anemones shift only slightly, like a crowd that just noticed you arrive. It's not unsettling. If anything, it's welcoming, as if they've been waiting for you, but politely. You pass a bench made from whale vertebrae strung with pearls, and beside it, a sign carved into coral reads, "Nap Conservatory. Please whisper. Dreams are in session." You smile, because of course they are. One anemone larger than the rest, and shaped like a blooming chandelier, floats closer to you. It emits a faint chime like wind brushing crystal. You get the sense that it wants to show you something, not urgently, just with a patient sort of curiosity. So you follow it. The path winds through delicate archways made of interwoven seagrass and old silverware draped with barnacle lanterns that sway like sleepy thoughts. Other anemones join your little caravan, pulsing softly in rhythm with your steps. It feels like walking through a lullaby. Eventually, you arrive at the center of the garden, a domed alcove open to the sea above, where the water glows with reflected starlight, even though you're far beneath the waves. The floor is lined with polished sea glass mosaics that rearrange themselves when you're not looking. You try to catch them in the act, but they're always just one movement ahead of your gaze. The central feature is a shallow basin filled with water even calmer than the sea around you, almost like oil in texture, smooth and dense. Floating atop it, small, transparent bubbles. Inside each one, a flickering scene plays on loop. Tiny dreams, fragments. You lean in. One bubble shows a cat riding a bicycle made of licorice through a thunderstorm made entirely of giggles. Another, a woman made of autumn leaves whispering lullabies to a sleeping volcano. And another you. Yes, you standing on a stage made of toast, delivering a speech to a very polite audience of animated teaspoons. You blink, then laugh softly, the sound bubbling through the water like it belongs here. The anemone beside you quivers once, and a new bubble forms. Inside, a tiny version of yourself lying in a blanket Ford nose, buried in a book, with no title but 1,000 pages. You feel that image more than see it. The safety of it. The slow peace of turning pages until your eyes refuse to stay open. You gently place a fingertip against the bubble. It vanishes, but the feeling doesn't. The anemones respond. A low hum begins. Not a sound, exactly more like the vibration of a warm thought in your chest. The fronds of every anemone in the garden move in sync. Now not swaying randomly, but weaving a rhythm slow and pulsing like the heartbeat of sleep itself. You sit on the sea glass floor, cross-legged, quiet. The anemones circle closer. Their light dims slightly, then brightens, then dims again, a breathing rhythm. And within it, you begin to feel a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. Soften. Not gone, but not sharp anymore. Like grief that's turned into a song you can hum without crying. Like a regret that forgave you first. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and the anemones cradle you not physically, but emotionally. Like the library did, like the carousel, like the owl who always disappears right before things get real. A gentle knock echoes through the garden, not loud, not rude, just present. The anemones part respectfully, revealing a curtain of jelly thread pulled aside to reveal another room, a new chamber, another step. You rise slowly, thank the garden without words, and move forward. The anemones pulse once more behind you, sending you off with the tenderness of a lullaby not yet finished. You step through the jelly thread curtain and into the hush of a new chamber dimmer, but not darker. The light here has a thoughtful quality, like sunlight filtering through pages of a book no one rushes to finish. The water feels thicker, more aware somehow, as though it remembers every ripple you make. And there, settled at the center of a spiraled room made of shipwreck timbers and mirror shards, is an octopus. He doesn't turn right away. He's busy. One of his 8 arms swirls a long-handled brush made of whale whiskers dipped in shimmering pigment. Another arm holds a palette that gleams with the impossible, the color of your first heartbreak, the green of nostalgia before it curdles, a blue so deep it might be silence pressed into hue. His other arms, they move like dancers, fluid, graceful, precise, reaching for ink jars, smoothing edges, dabbing highlights that seem to flicker even as you watch. The wall he paints on isn't a wall at all. It's water held in place by will, suspended, shivering faintly, and yet, somehow, still. You approach quietly, not wanting to intrude. The octopus speaks without turning. "Come in. You're right on time." His voice is gravel-soaked in honey, rich, low, and inexplicably kind. You step closer. "Did you know I was coming?" A lazy flourish of his brush. "Of course. All things paint themselves eventually. I just help them remember how." He dips his brush into a new well of color. This one, the exact shade of a breath caught in your throat, and makes a long stroke across the liquid canvas. And suddenly, there it is. A memory, your memory. Not in full, not literal, but the feeling of it. It shows a tree, bent slightly, roots coiled in cracked earth. Beneath it, a figure sits. You could be someone else. But the emotion is unmistakable. The moment you realized not everything broken needs to be fixed, you blink stunned by how much that one stroke contains. The octopus gestures with a spare tentacle to the room around him. Every piece I paint is someone's yesterday. But not just any yesterday. The ones they misplaced. The quiet ones. The almosts. You glance at the spiral walls. They're covered in living murals moving, and still at the same time. A woman cradling a ghost made of dandelions. A boy laughing as he falls upward through a field of reversed lightning. A dog made of ink and paper waiting patiently at a door that never opened. Can anyone see their memories here, you ask? Only if they ask gently. You hesitate. Then whisper, "May I?" The octopus taps his brush to his temple. Already have. He flicks a spiral into the water wall, and slowly the scene shifts. This one you know instantly. A school hallway, your old one maybe. Or some version of it. The lockers are wrong and the colors are off, but the smell of pencils and hallway detergent hits you square in the soul. There's someone standing near a doorway. Someone who once meant more than you could say. You almost said something to them that day. You almost stayed. The painting fades, not cruelly, just kindly. You breathe out without realizing you'd held your breath. Some yesterdays, are too fragile to stay long, the octopus says. But the important part, you felt it. You sit down on a shell-cushioned bench shaped like an open palm. It rocks gently under your weight, like the ocean's version of a rocking chair. He continues painting, this time with a brush made of starfish filaments. How long have you been down here, you ask? A shrug of all 8 arms. Since before the jellyfish invented doors. You nod solemnly. That tracks. Another flick, another swirl, another half scene. A city made entirely of clocks, all ticking at slightly different tempos. A stairway that loops into itself, growing flowers as it folds. A balloon filled with fog hovering just inches above the floor. What happens to the paintings when you're done, you ask? The octopus pauses. They return to the people who need them. Not always as pictures, sometimes as dreams, sometimes as smells. Once a finished painting came back as a bowl of soup someone hadn't tasted since their grandmother passed. He sighs happily. That was a good one. You lean back, let the room swish and settle around you. And then he turns his attention fully to you. 4 of his arms fold. 2 keep working. The last 2 reach behind him and pull something forward, a small orb, shimmering, pulsing like a memory, trying to remember itself. For you, he says simply, you take it. The surface ripples beneath your fingertips, and the image inside flares to life. It's a scene of you not long ago, standing in front of a mirror. Not proud, not ashamed. Just there. Present. Accepting. The way your reflection looked back at you. Like it had finally forgiven you for all the things you didn't know back then. You hold the orb for a long moment, then place it on the floor beside you. It floats upward, finds its place on a gently drifting shelf, and rests. You're not finished yet, the octopus says. You nod. He reaches out with a damp, paint-splattered tentacle and taps your forehead lightly. A blessing or a brushstroke, you're not sure. The chamber begins to lighten literally, not with brightness, but with ease, like the room exhales. And when you blink again, the walls are gone. Just open water now, and a new path glowing faintly with pearl dust. Ahead, a series of arches, each made of giant scallop shells gently yawning open. You turn. The octopus gives you a small wave, then returns to his work. The canvas ripples, the brush dips, and something new begins. The arches of scallop shell dissolve behind you, folding into the sea as if they were never built but merely borrowed. Ahead, the path flickers with coins of light, tiny golden circles that scatter under your feet like minnows, too shy to commit to a conversation. The water around you grows warmer, not hot, but humming like bath water that's been whispering secrets to itself. And then you hear it, a slow, rhythmic clink, the rattle of coral beads, the faint shush of scale against silk. You've arrived at the midnight market. You didn't plan to. No one does. The market appears only when it wants to be found at the precise intersection of need and curiosity. And tonight, apparently, you qualify. It sprawls before you in a lazy spiral like a nautilus that decided to retire and open a curiosity shop. Stalls float on anchored jelly bladders, bobbing slightly as their keepers call out in voices that range from murmurs to melodic burbles. Above you, lanternfish sway from invisible strings, casting uneven light that feels like candle glow filtered through memories. Everything gleams faintly here, not because it's polished, but because it remembers being touched. You approach the first booth where a seahorse wearing spectacles balanced on its nose fin is sorting through a box of things that look suspiciously like unanswered questions. Two for a sigh, it says without looking up. You raise an eyebrow. What kind of sigh? The seahorse sniffs. Only genuine ones. No dramatic exasperation or theatric despair. We are very strict. You smile and wander on. A jellyfish merchant has draped his stall with old umbrellas. Lace, plaid, clear plastic with little ducklings on the handle, all gently spinning in the current. Hanging from each is an object in a bubble. One holds a pair of socks with a single strand of hair still clinging to them. Another contains a teacup stained with a memory. You don't ask what the third one holds. It looks back. The merchant gives a slow nod, then gestures to a sign that reads, "Regrets cleaned, catalogued, reframed." You move along. Next, a kelp-wrapped booth, run by a manta ray with a monocle. His inventory, excuses that were never used, bottled, labeled in neat ink. Didn't call because I was afraid. Thought it wasn't the right time. Didn't think I was good enough. Each sits on a floating shelf quietly swirling. Not heavy, but dense. These are on sale tonight, the manta murmurs. Buy one, release 3. You politely decline. Further, in the market grows cozier. The stalls tuck in tighter. The passageways narrowing like alleyways built for secrets and murmured revelations. Somewhere behind a wall of moss-lined crates, you hear someone singing. It's not a voice so much as a sensation, like being wrapped in a sweater knit from laughter and shoreline fog. You follow the sound and find a booth run by a hermit crab in a ceramic sugar bowl. She's selling lullabies. Custom blends, she chirps. Limited edition, ethically foraged, dream certified. You listen as she demonstrates one with a puff of her claw. The notes shimmer out like steam and smell like cinnamon and distant thunder. You nod appreciatively. She smiles and ties it into a satchel made from spider silk and cloud. You tuck it into your robe. It hums gently beside your ribs. You turn a corner and run into someone, not a creature this time, but a person. They're tall, cloaked in fabric that moves like kelp and light. Their face is obscured not by magic or intent, but by the sheer weight of mystery. You're late, they say, but without accusation. More like observation. You glance around. Am I? They shrug. Aren't we all? Come. Without waiting, they lead you through a curtained archway into the inner circle of the market. The air here feels older. The booths don't sell, they wait. Here the wares are intangible, bound in glowing jars or housed in transparent shells. One shelf is stacked with unspoken wishes, each trembling faintly with effort. Another holds invisible instruments, playing lullabies for fish with insomnia. There's a table where a sea cucumber and a pipefish trade recipes for soups that cure forgetting. And in the center, beneath a driftwood canopy, wrapped in dream kelp, stands a table. It's low to the ground, set with a single place, a cup, a fork, and a folded napkin made of woven letters. The cloaked figure gestures. This is yours. You sit without hesitation. The plate that appears before you is simple. A slice of something soft, something amber glazed, something that hums with the scent of kindness long past its due date. You take a bite. It tastes like someone once saved a seat for you at lunch, even though you never asked them to. Another bite, the feeling of seeing your name written with care. A third, the sound of someone pronouncing it right on the first try. You close your eyes. When you open them again, the figure is gone. But something has been left behind. On the table next to your empty plate sits a small stone. At first glance, it's just smooth and unremarkable. But as you pick it up, it pulses once. And in that pulse, a memory rises, not a grand one, not dramatic, just the moment you chose to be kind instead of clever, to listen instead of win. You tuck the stone into your robe pocket. The market behind you begins to fade, stall by stall, lantern by lantern, not disappearing, just resting, waiting for the next dreamer. You walk on through a curtain of seaweed shaped like ampersands, your pocket a little heavier, your heart a little lighter. Ahead, something glows, something sings, and it smells like salt and starlight. You follow the glow forward, letting it pull you like the tide tugging at forgotten driftwood. The sea begins to hush around you, a kind of reverent stillness, replacing the soft chatter of the midnight market. It's the quiet before a performance, or maybe the silence that follows, something sacred. Either way, you hold your breath not out of fear, but out of instinct. Something is about to begin. The path opens into a vast shadowed expanse, not dark, not empty, just waiting. You feel the ocean here like a cathedral, fields a prayer, immense and echoing and very, very old. Archways of coral stretch high overhead, carved by centuries of currents into vaults and ribs and spirals. They glow, faintly brushed with phosphorescent paint so delicate it could have been applied by size. The floor beneath your feet is a drifting current of soft sediment, pale and shimmering like moon powder sifted through fingertips. And then you hear it. First, just a murmur, a low vibration somewhere between a whale's call and a string being plucked. Then a harmony joins it, a higher note like wind humming across glass bottles. You realize with a flutter that the ocean around you is singing. No, not the ocean. An orchestra, hidden, waiting, rehearsing the silence. From the left, a cluster of anemones twitch in sequence, sending out a ripple of rhythm like underwater chimes. On your right, a school of silvery fish shimmers past in perfect unison, each body vibrating at a slightly different frequency, together forming chords you feel in your chest. You step forward, eyes wide, and now you see them. The orchestra, not sitting, not standing, but hovering, each musician suspended in the water, tethered by nothing but attention. Their instruments, no two are alike. A jellyfish bows a harp spun from narwhal whiskers. A turtle taps delicately on a frame of kelp-stretched drumskin. A shrimp glowing faintly blue holds what looks like a wind chime of frozen tears and plays it with their antennae. And at the center, conducting with a spine of seagrass and grace made from stillness, a giant cuttlefish, robes of shifting ink gestures, soft as dreams. You are not an audience. You are part of the arrangement. Each step you take across the sediment causes a slight shift in the current, which stirs a ribbon of kelp, which rustles a note into a hollow conch, which echoes into a background harmony. You stand still. The music builds, and you feel it like the ocean is telling its own memory, not one of storms or shipwrecks or drama. A simple memory, the first time the sea learned to sing. You drift closer. No one stops you. No one notices. Or maybe everyone does. You find a small outcropping of coral and settle onto it, your robe of dream fabric fluttering around your knees. It blends into the water like ink in tea. In front of you, two sea dragons play a duet. Their instruments look like vines of dried laughter strung between pearl thimbles. The sound is hard to describe. It tastes like the first snowfall in a place that forgot it could snow. The music pauses for a heartbeat, not a stop, a breath. And then the bass line returns, played by a pair of whales, too vast to be seen in full, whose songs thrum through the bones of the sea itself. Above, a ceiling of glassfish twirls into spirals, each flash of their scales catching and holding a note. They become the starlight of this sunless world, each one blinking in time with a beat you didn't realize your heart was following. You find yourself humming quietly without realizing it, a minor third soft and slow. The water around you stirs. One of the musicians looks up a small octopus with an accordion made of driftwood and ribbon. It nods. Not approval, not instruction, just participation. You are not here to observe. You are here to echo. So you do, not loudly, not showily, just a single note. It floats up and out like a soap bubble shivering with sound. Another silence follows, and then the cuttlefish conductor turns ever so slightly in your direction. It lifts one limb. The tempo shifts. Every musician turns slightly subtly toward you, and the next movement begins. It's not louder. It's not faster. It's just aware, as if the song has recognized you and made room. The current swirls around your ankles like ribbon-tied wind. You close your eyes. The music wraps you, not just in notes, in story. A story without words, without plot, just feeling. The ache of something beautiful you can't hold. The warmth of belonging you forgot you deserved. The hollow joy of letting go When you open your eyes again, the orchestra has changed. The musicians are retreating, fading into choral archways and pockets of shadow. The conductor nods once and dissolves into a puff of ink. The silence that follows is not empty. It is full. You rise. A shell rests where your foot had been. You pick it up, hold it to your ear, and hear not the sea, but your own humming, played back to you like a lullaby written in reverse. You tuck it into your robe and step forward again. The arches close behind you, not with a door, but with a sigh. Ahead, another glimmer, another curiosity. Because here under the ocean, the dream is far from done. The arches behind you dim as you drift forward again. Deeper still, carried now not just by water, but by momentum. A kind of dream current that asks no questions, only offers directions shaped like intuition. The shell from the orchestra feels warm in your pocket, humming occasionally like it wants to say something, but is waiting for the right moment. The water ahead thickens not unpleasantly, more like velvet drapes in a theater brushed aside gently by your presence. You push forward and feel the dream thinning again, space widening. Something hollow lives just beyond, and then you're there at the mouth of a cave. It yawns before you in quiet welcome ringed with lichens that glow like softened candlelight. The walls shimmer with mica and moss, forming slow spirals and watery glyphs that pulse faintly in rhythm with your breath. A small wooden sign dangles from a coral hook near the entrance, its letters hand-painted and a little lopsided. Echoes, please whisper kindly. You smile, of course you do, because who wouldn't? You step inside. The temperature doesn't drop. There is no ominous breeze, no cold touch of stone. Instead, the air is tender, like the hush of a friend holding a secret. The cave curves gently, a spiraling womb carved by time and silence. All around you, strange stalactites hang like forgotten sentences. Some drip, some sway. One emits the faint sound of someone chuckling at their own joke. You walk slowly, and the path beneath your feet glows with every step. Bioluminescent sand, sketching soft footprints behind you that vanish in moments. And then you speak, not loudly, not even intentionally, just a quiet, oh, as your eyes widen at a ribbon of color overhead, an arch of moss and jelly glass that shines like old candy. The cave repeats it back, not as mimicry, not as mockery, but as interpretation. Your oh returns to you as a violin sigh softened by distance, blurred at the edges like a dream remembered just after waking. You freeze, then smile, and test another, a hum, just a note, any note. It echoes back as a choir of distant wails, all singing your tone back in harmony. You step forward, curiosity sparking now, and with every sound, every shuffle, every breath, every heartbeat, the cave replies. Not always with the same music, not always with sound, sometimes with light. A snapped finger sends a ripple across the ceiling, blooming into soft starlight, and then fading like a candle being embarrassed. You approach a stone bench formed naturally from two curled slabs of shell rock. Resting atop it, a mirror, framed in driftwood and coral slightly fogged. When you peer in, you don't see your reflection. You see moments. You saying something brave in a whisper when you were small. You singing quietly to a cat that didn't belong to you. You humming when you thought no one listened. And as you watch the images dissolve, and the cave whispers a new echo not of sound, but of recognition, as if it's saying, yes, that mattered, even that. You sit, because what else can you do? The bench is cool but not unfriendly. You lean back and let the cave speak. It tells you about moments you forgot, not big ones, small ones. You dropping a note into someone's locker and never seeing them read it. You crying into a cup of tea and laughing 2 seconds later because the mug said something absurd like, feline fine with a picture of a cat in sunglasses. The cave knows, and it holds those echoes gently like they were always meant to come back. You hum again, and this time the echo dances like wind chimes in sunlight. A soft voice somewhere near, though you see no one, says, you may leave one behind if you wish. You blink. There, on the wall, is a small hollow shaped like a seashell. It glows faintly, inviting. You reach into your robe pocket, not the one with the shell, the other one, and find a moment. It's shaped like a question, specifically the one you never asked, not because you didn't want to, but because you didn't think you deserved the answer. You take it in your hand. It feels like hesitation and hope braided together, and gently, reverently, you place it in the hollow. The light around it pulses once, then turns deep violet, and the cave says with sound and without, that was enough. You exhale and rise. The path forward opens like an unfolding petal. You don't look back, because that echo now belongs to the cave, and its job, like yours, is to remember gently. The exit is shaped like a song's final note, a curve of stone that hums as you pass beneath it. And just like that, you're back in the open sea, drifting, lighter, quieter. You're not sure how long you were there, but you know it changed you, just a little. Enough. Ahead, new glimmers wait bubbles full of maps, memories tied in kelp, and the scent of ink about to be spilled. But for now, the echo of your own voice follows behind you, and it is kind. You barely notice the shift at first, just a flicker of color in the water, a slight sparkle along your periphery. But then, all at once, it's unmistakable. A parade, not the clanging, booming kind, with floats and oversized balloons. No, this one moves like music written in cursive fluid, looping impossible to diagram but instantly understood. A school of tiny fish with iridescent scales swims ahead of you, looping gracefully through kelp arches that shimmer like stained glass windows. They dart in rhythm, swirling to form shapes, a spiraling shell, a heart made of bubbles, a question mark that pops into confetti the moment you recognize it, and then they part. You slow, instinctively drawn into stillness. Because there they are, the seahorses, dozens, no hundreds, drifting forward in solemn procession, each one barely the size of your thumb, but majestic, dressed in strands of seaweed like ceremonial robes adorned with barnacle beads and sea glass crowns. Some shimmer with gold flecks like stars trapped in amber. Others are softly glowing, their skin translucent, like old parchment lit from within. They carry tiny banners in their tails, tattered ribbons with delicate embroidery. You can't read the symbols stitched into the fabric, but your heart seems to know what they mean. Endurance, hope, small kindnesses done when no one was looking. One of the seahorses nods at you, just a tilt of its bubble-shaped head. But it feels like a thank you. A thank you for arriving, for staying, for noticing the details others might rush past. Behind them, a larger seahorse glides forward, pulling something peculiar, a floating chariot made of coral lattice and upturned shells trimmed in polished kelp. Inside sits a single snail with a powdered wig monocle and the unmistakable air of authority. He holds a scroll and a quill made of feathered seaweed. You raise an eyebrow, and the snail raises one slowly back, as if to say, "I'm aware of the irony. Thank you." A trumpet sounds, if you can call it that. It's more of a musical exhale played by a pufferfish in ceremonial armor that inflates slightly with each note. The parade halts. You, being polite, halt too. The snail lifts his scroll and begins to read. Not aloud, not exactly. The words appear in the water like ink trails suspended between you and him. They curl and drift, readable, only if you squint a little sideways, for services rendered to the quiet joys of unnoticed moments, and in recognition of your participation in the dream march of the deep. You are hereby awarded the honorary title of Listener Laureate. Your eyebrows rise. Another scroll appears. This one says, benefits include mild telepathy with particularly thoughtful anemones, one free emotional clarity per full moon, and access to the tidal archives between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. Local seabed time. You nod solemnly, then do the only thing that feels appropriate. You bow. The snail nods back extremely slowly, then rings a little shell bell once. The parade resumes. As they pass, one of the smallest seahorses pauses beside you and offers a tiny pouch made of braided sea silk. You take it and feel the weight of it in your hand. It's heavier than it looks. You open it carefully. Inside are 3 things. A bubble that holds the sound of laughter yours from when you were 7 and forgot to be self-conscious for an entire afternoon. A pebble shaped like an ampersand, as if to remind you that endings are rarely final. A folded note, faded and water-stained, that simply reads, "Keep going. It matters." You hold them for a moment, then tuck them into your robe's pocket next to the orchestra shell beside the question you left in the echo cave. You watch as the parade winds away into a trench of dancing light, like ink being drawn back into a pen. The kelp closes gently behind them. Silence returns, but it isn't empty. It's full of something richer, reverence. You drift forward again, slower now, like you're walking through a cathedral. The water feels different, denser, softer, touched with meaning. You pass a jellyfish drifting in a slow pirouette, its tendrils spelling out lullabies in Morse code. You nod at a hermit crab arranging spiral shells by color. It waves a claw like a curator welcoming you to an exhibit. And then a clearing, a sudden openness in the sea where the water feels thin like breath before speech. At its center, a staircase, spiraling upward, not made of coral or stone, but of bubbles, strong, shimmering, anchored by moonlight itself. You don't climb yet. Instead, you rest your hand against the first step. It hums, as if waiting to know whether you're ready, but not rushing you. Never rushing, just being there, like wonder always is waiting for you to notice. Behind you, the echo of the parade lingers. You feel it in your chest, that slow motion joy, that small earned celebration of simply showing up and paying attention. And ahead, more dream. You smile because the journey hasn't ended, not even close. The staircase of bubbles releases you gently into a corridor of shadow and drift the water cooler, hair tinged with the deep blue hush of forgotten things. As you move forward, the world narrows slightly less garden. More cathedral now. Kelp arches above like stained glass done in greens, and midnight teals, each frond swaying as if whispering secrets they've sworn never to repeat. And there, ahead, half buried in the seafloor, you find it. A shipwreck, not the kind painted with tragedy or covered in ghost stories, but something softer. The remains of a ship so old it no longer remembers its name, only the stars it once chased. Its wooden ribs curve upward, like the bones of a slumbering whale, hollowed and barnacle-dusted with scalloped holes in the hull, where sea urchins now hold conference. You drift closer. Inside the wreck has been reimagined, not repaired, not restored, but gently transformed. It's an observatory now, a telescope made of hollowed coral and smoked pearl, stretches from a crow's nest shaped like a teacup. Around it, tables of sea glass, maps and charts, sketched in ink that sparkles slightly in the dark, as if drawn with stardust and squid ink. A jellyfish wearing spectacles hovers near the wheel, muttering about tide math and moonwalk velocity. You don't interrupt. Instead, you drift to one of the observation decks, just a plank, softened by years of salt and lullabies. There's a bench. You sit. Above you, the water parts like curtains pulled back by unseen hands, revealing the ceiling of the ocean. It is vast. It is velvet. It is studded with stars, real ones. Not points of light from above, but deep-sea constellations. Bioluminescent plankton forming shapes as they pulse in slow time. You see a seahorse cradling a violin, a walrus with a monocle reclining in a hammock of kelp, a shoal of anchovies spelling out a phrase in cursive. We are all just bubbles between the tides. A small clam scoots next to you, wearing what can only be described as an astronomer's beret. Evening, it says without opening its shell. Good evening, you reply, not at all surprised. The clam gestures a stubby appendage toward the starry canvas above, charting emotional constellations tonight. Want in? You nod, and a tiny notebook appears in your lap, already damp but perfectly legible. Its pages shimmer with blankness, each one humming softly like it's trying to remember the dream you just forgot. Start with one you almost remember. The clam advises. You draw. Or rather, your hand does somehow, moving in ways you didn't plan, sketching a shape like a half-finished song. The moment it touches paper, it pulses once and joins the sky above. Now there's a new constellation. You name it, almost brave. The clam nods approvingly. That's a good one. We've got a whole quadrant for those. More stars blink into being, each one tethered to a truth you've never said aloud, but somehow hold clearly now in the quiet of this place. You add the laugh you hid in math class and the day you almost turned around but didn't. Each one becomes a light above. You wonder aloud, do these constellations disappear when I leave? Nope, the clam replies. They drift. They visit others who need them. They show up in dreams and bath water ripples, and those moments where the world pauses just long enough for wonder to sneak in. You look down at the pages still blank and feel something stir, a softness like permission. The telescope swings gently, as if nudging you toward the bow of the ship. You drift there, and from this angle, you see a dome of curved glass, ancient, weathered, but still holding. Inside it, glowing instruments tick in a rhythm that isn't time exactly. Maybe it's memory, maybe moonlight, maybe both. The telescope clicks into focus. You press your eye gently to the eyepiece and gasp, because it shows not the stars, but your own past unfolding quietly like laundry on a line. Moments you forgot, but which never forgot you. The crayon sun you drew at age 6 and insisted was scientifically accurate. The first time you said no and meant it. The afternoon you sat by a window, too sad to move, but stayed anyway. And that counted. Each memory is a planet in slow orbit, each one whole and spinning and waiting for you to notice. You pull away, breath caught somewhere between your ribs and your throat. The clam pats your knee. It's okay. They've been fine without you. But they're glad you looked. You nod and say nothing. There's nothing to say. The observatory creaks softly like it's sighing in its sleep. Somewhere behind you, the jellyfish hums a lullaby in a key you don't quite recognize, but your bones do. You rise. One last look up. The sky now spells something different, not in letters, in feeling. You don't translate it. You just carry it with you. You step off the wreck, back into the gentle drift of the water. The clam waves a flipper and vanishes into a drawer labeled pending. You float weightless again toward the next glow, the next quiet marvel. You drift onward through a patch of silvery seaweed that rustles like wind in long grass, though you feel no current. The water remains hushed, almost reverent, as if it too is listening. The bioluminescent silt underfoot shimmers with every step, marking your trail in faint spiraling footprints that vanish once you're not looking. And then, as the path bends around a gentle coral archway, shaped like a question mark, you arrive at a tide pool, or rather, what feels like one. Its circular shallow nested in the crook of a great stone arm that rises from the seabed like an ancient sentinel. Though you're deep beneath the waves, the pool ripples like it's catching some echo of moonlight far above. Inside the basin, not fish, not coral, but objects. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, each one lost, or maybe surrendered. A single glove with tiny embroidered stars. A crumpled train ticket with faded ink. A harmonica missing two notes, but still humming with laughter. A pair of glasses, too small for any face now, lenses fogged with time. And next to them, a half-solved puzzle with its last piece floating nearby, waiting for someone who never quite returned. You lean over and peer closer. Each item holds its own shimmer like a memory trying not to fade. And then you notice it isn't random. Each object here means something to someone. Some carry the weight of longing. Others, lightness a joy too soft to keep, but too dear to forget. A glimmer at the edge of the pool catches your eye. A marble, swirled with blue and violet like a frozen galaxy. You reach for it gently, expecting it to resist, to sink deeper. But it floats. You cup it in your palm, and a whisper of a memory plays behind your eyes. You're 7, maybe 8, holding the same marble up to the sun by your bedroom window. You called it Saturn and insisted it could predict your dreams. You swore if you looked through it just right, you could see the face of tomorrow. You smile and return it to the water. The pool accepts it, tucking it among a seashell radio and a notebook with a single page left blank. Then a soft voice beside you says, "It's strange what stays, isn't it?" You turn. The clam from the Shipwreck Observatory has returned. But this time he's wearing tiny suspenders and balancing a clipboard between two flippers. He nods at the pool. "We don't throw anything away down here. We just store it safely until someone's ready to carry it again." You crouch beside him, watching a tiny ballerina figurine twirl slowly on the current, never quite stopping. "Can you take something back?" you ask. The clam shrugs. "You can try, but be sure it's yours." Some people come here trying to carry what was never theirs to begin with. You nod, looking again. Among the treasures and trinkets, something flickers at the far side of the pool. You wade in ankle deep, only though water shouldn't behave that way down here, and reach for it. A cassette tape. No label, but you know the feeling of it. That ache of a song you once loved, and now only remember the melody of When It Rains. You press it to your chest. A warmth spreads, not hot, not glowing, just comforting. Like being handed a blanket by someone who never once asked if you deserved it. The clam gives you a sideways glance. "That one's ready for you. Take it if you'd like." You nod and slide the tape into a pocket you didn't know your robe had. It nestles beside the echo of your old laugh. And something that smells faintly like the birthday cake you never got but once dreamed of. Before you can thank him, the clam is already scribbling a note with a stubby pencil. Inventory never ends, he mutters, and scuttles off into a barnacle-covered filing cabinet that wasn't there before. You look once more at the pool. It glows now, softer, dimmer, like a nightlight turned low so you don't forget where you are. And beyond it, another passage. This one narrow, flanked by vines that twist in slow spirals. You step forward past a comb with 3 missing teeth, a single silver spoon, and a book with no title but pages that flutter as you pass. A wind impossibly moves through the water, carrying with it the smell of lavender cardamom and the inside of an old drawer where secrets go to nap. Ahead, a staircase of bubble rings rising like steps in an old clock tower, and at the top, glowing faintly, the last chamber. You know this not from logic, but from the gentle thrum behind your ribs, the whisper in your bones that says, almost there. The path glows underfoot, each step a goodbye, and not a sad one. The tide pool fades behind you, like a held breath released. But you keep walking, because something else is waiting, and you're ready. You reach the top of the bubble staircase, and the last chamber unfolds before you. Not with fanfare, not with sudden drama, but like the slow opening of a flower in moonlight. It's round, but not a perfect circle. Organic, like something grown rather than built. The walls ripple gently, as though the water here is slower, thicker, holding still for just this moment. The chamber is empty, but not hollow. It hums with attention. And in the center, floating slightly above a woven coral dais, is a chair. No throne, no dramatic curls of bone or crystal. Just a chair, worn, loved. The kind you'd find at a porch that faced the sunrise where someone once read books aloud to no one in particular. You hesitate. You've seen many things tonight. Walked beside jellyfish lanterns, shared tea with a cartographer. Crab listened to an orchestra of sea creatures who'd never touched sheet music, tasted lost moments pressed into cake. But this feels different. This is not wonder. This is return. You drift toward the chair, and with the same instinct you had at the tide pool, you sit. It rocks, just slightly, and behind you sound, a whisper of water, a flick of fin, and then the Moonfin arrives. You know, it's him. The moment you see the curl of silver light wrapped along his tail, the way he leaves a trail of soft blue glow behind, like ink spilling in slow motion. His eyes are round and impossibly old, rimmed with flecks of gold, like shattered clock faces. He circles once, then rests beside you. For a moment, neither of you move. Then the Moonfin leans gently against the chair, his head touching your side with a weightless pressure. And you hear a sound that doesn't travel through your ears. It comes from inside your ribs, like a bell ringing inside a velvet box. Welcome back. You smile. The chair rocks a little more, and from somewhere beyond the chamber the water parts. A path opens not like the others, This one glows silver and purple, and you realize it isn't a path at all. It's a current, a return tide. It curls like a spiral, lifting slightly in the water, and the moonfin nudges your knee. Time to go. You don't want to, but you also don't want to stay. It's the strangest kind of readiness quiet, like waking up slowly and remembering you're safe before you open your eyes. You rise. The moonfin swims ahead, curling into the current, like he's known it all along. You follow the chair already gone, like it was never meant to hold weight for long. The current gathers you both, not like a riptide, like a cradle. It lifts you gently up and back through all the layers of dream. You pass the places you've been, but only the feelings remain. The laughter in the submarine carousel, the hush in the echoing cave, the taste of the cake that knew your truest moments. They do not cling, they accompany. And the current carries you higher until the water begins to change, not thinner, but lighter. Your robe of sea-scented memories clings to your skin like a second thought, and your pockets are still full of invisible souvenirs. Then, starlight again. But this time it's stitched into air, and somewhere a candle flickers, not to guide you, just to remind you, you are arriving, not to a new place, to now. The current lowers, softens, lets go. You land not with a splash, but with a breath. The moonfin lingers, nods once, and dives backward into the deep, like a memory that promises to return when you need him. Before you a table, small, round, a single candle burning in a cup made from folded coral and wax. Beside it, an envelope. You don't open it, not yet, because somehow you already know what it says. The flame dances gently, not a challenge, not a warning, just a rhythm, and around you quiet. Not the kind that isolates, the kind that holds. You are here, now, exactly as you should be. Let yourself linger here a moment longer. No need to rush. The current is still, the tide has turned, and nothing asks anything of you. The deep sea has released you gently, and the hush that fills your lungs now is not silence, but peace. You feel the memory of the rocking chair in your bones, the soft pull of the moonfin still humming faintly in your ribs, as if he left behind a lullaby woven of fins and moonlight. The candle on the table flickers once, and the air settles. You don't need to go back and gather every image, every scene, every conversation. They're all inside you now, filing themselves away gently, like books returned to their proper shelves. Nothing lost, just placed where you can reach it, should the dream ever drift back to you. There's no grand ending here, only soft presence, the kind that feels like a warm blanket pulled over your shoulders at just the right time. The kind that doesn't wake you, but makes sure you fall asleep, knowing the world is still full of mystery and you're allowed to wander in it. Tonight you dove deep beneath imagined waves and emerged not just changed, but seen. And if tomorrow the world feels too sharp, you'll know there's a path that leads to jellyfish lanterns and music in the dark and gardens of sleeping anemones. And you can return. You always can. But for now, rest, float, and dream.